How's it going, guys? Welcome. So today is a little bit of a different video. You might notice that this is a game that was not, normally I'm just playing games. Today, if you can tell by the title, I wanted to kind of talk about a story. But just kind of to introduce what you are at least looking at while you listen to me ramble. This is more of just something for the background. There's nothing like significant that I'm going to be talking about with the game. This is just an old game called Phantasy Star Universe. It was on the 360, PS2, PC. Servers were shut down, private server. That's the gameplay. Anyway, moving on. So, yeah, let's get into what today's topic is. It's a story about how a best friend can ultimately end up becoming a person that you do not recognize, and that you no longer call a friend because of their acts and that the way they treated you and everything else that they have done. It's kind of I feel like something that everybody goes through, and it's not simple. It's really hard. No one feels good doing it. It's one of those things that life throws some haymakers your way, and sometimes it's in the form of a best friend. And today I kind of want to share a story about how someone who I considered, and as years grew on, maybe they weren't always my best friend, but they were always a good friend, somebody that I definitely enjoyed and would hang out with, and, that I would be happy to help out and support, that sort of thing. Like, they were a good friend of mine, and I met this person, and I'm not going to name their name, but I am going to share this story because I think it's important for people to hear it, because maybe they can relate and they know that, like, it's going to be okay. So I met this person when I had first moved to a new school. It was a town that was really close to my hometown. And, things just weren't working out really well for me at the old school. It was one of those where I grew up was so small that, like, everybody knew everybody. And when I say everybody knew everybody, I mean, like, everybody knew everybody. Everybody was in everybody's business. It was a horrible, it's a horrible town, and for that reason. But things didn't work out, so I moved to this new school, and, in the first couple of weeks, maybe first couple of months, I had met this guy, and for the sake of the story, we'll call him Brian. Well, so Brian, one day, we were in English class. It was 8th grade English, and I'm sitting in a chair that was next to another guy. And Brian and this guy were kind of friends. The thing about this, to give you some backstory on Brian, kind of a little bit of an outcast. Not a whole lot of people liked him because he was just strange. But not in, like, a bad way. He wasn't like one of the weird kids. He was like a gamer kid, like one of those kind of weirds. And, when I was growing up, gaming was kind of becoming cool, but we weren't out of the woods yet. So, they definitely, treated us and the rest of the kind of the people who I ended up falling in a group with, differently, but he was all right. So, I sat in a chair where, again, next to Brian's acquaintance, I suppose, and he wanted to sit next to him. And we had assigned seats, but my 8th grade teacher, she was, like, super cool. And, if you were, like, if both people were, like, cool with it, like, you could swap seats. It was no big deal. But, like, he wanted my seat, and I had, like, no incentive to move. I liked where I was. I didn't really know anybody, so me moving into the middle of a bunch of people that in a school I just moved to, really wasn't, like, not in my realm of comfort at the time, being in 8th grade. You're still kind of figuring yourself out socially. You don't really know who you are. I was also like a really big, like, I was kind of in like, I was too, not like hefty, but I was just like a larger guy, like in terms of like bulky. I was always a big guy, and like, but I always really, for some reason, wanted to be, again, and, you know, everyone has this young phase of wanting to be an emo kid. So again, like, that's the kind of person I was, and he's trying to like swap me seats. That puts me into the middle of a bunch of people I have no idea who they are. And mind you, we're kind of in a country town. I'm very much the odd one out here. Always have been. So we get to talking, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do it. So I think it ended up like, you know, it was kind of funny but it was like, it was not one of those things of like, you're annoying, like, leave me alone, you know, because like, you know, he started joking about it, and, you know, I would joke back, and then we, right after English was lunch. So me and him walked to lunch together, and we're chit chatting, and, you know, as things progress, you know, we're obviously still doing the chair joke, but me and him are, you know, learning that, you know, maybe we have something in common here. Like, he likes Call of Duty. I was big into Call of Duty and Battlefield and all sorts of other stuff. He was into some of those things. You know, he liked one style of music, and I introduced him to like Avenged Sevenfold. You know, and kind of expanded his horizons, if you will, in terms of music in that regard. But it was, you know, it's what you do as kids. You share your experiences and your interests with each other. And so, you know, we ended up becoming buddies, and we were already next to each other anyway, but he just wanted to move closer to that guy, like I was saying. And so, you know, the chair thing, I don't remember if it ended up happening or not, but we ended up becoming like really, really good friends all through 8th grade and into high school. You know, and we were good buds. And I'm not gonna lie, I'll give some preface to myself as well. When I was younger, I was really not a good friend, and that's something that I have taken to heart as I've gotten older, and like really tried to work hard at making sure that I am a good friend, and that I try to not take too much from my friends, because I have realized that I'm really bad at like, I'm there. I'm a great friend when it comes to loyalty, and I'm a great friend when it comes to being there nowadays. But I was very selfish when I was a younger person. I was an only child. That doesn't excuse it, but I was an only child. You know, I kind of raised myself a little bit, in the sense of my parents were always busy. They always provided. They were great parents. They weren't abusive or anything, but, you know, I was alone a lot. I didn't have my siblings because they were much older and they moved out. So I grew up as an only child. So it was either just me taking care of me and doing what I wanted to do. So I was very selfish, unknowingly, and thankfully I've been able to realize that and grow out of it quite a bit, which has been a blessing in and of itself. But you know, like I said, I will preface and say I was not a great friend at all times. There were points that, you know, he could have like punched me in the jaw and more, and it would have been justified. It would have been good. But like, I think, you know, young male friends especially, they have that kind of relationship of like, you're both growing, you know, you're both stupid, you both come from different backgrounds. There's different things that, you know, he might have done that I wouldn't think that are acceptable, and then I do things that he doesn't think that are acceptable. And that's kind of like what makes a good friendship, and or, you know, a long friendship, I feel like is built upon is you guys kind of teach each other both values that you have kind of grown with, or maybe preferences and things that you find acceptable, if that makes sense. So like I said, there were definitely points where I was a giant jerk, you know, and I wasn't the best of friend to Brian. You know, I did things that, you know, but that's the thing is later on I apologized for him. And, you know, that doesn't necessarily, again, fix it or erase the things that I did. But in the moral of the story is I grew past that, and I tried to do right, and then that's a little bit on me. So and we kind of, like I was saying before, we were good friends all through high school, and then eventually we never had like falling outs or anything, but like he went homeschooled and I think in like 10th grade or something like that, when I was our sophomore year. For non-American schoolgoers, sophomore year is 10th grade. For us, I don't know if it's different over any other place, but whatever. So we didn't necessarily separate, but like his parents were kind of odd in the sense of like they didn't really like anybody. Like they were strict, but they weren't, because like his mom would like have like her friends over and they would drink copious amounts of liquor and then like sing karaoke and be loud all night, and no one would bat an eye. But like me and Brian would do silly things, and suddenly, you can't be doing that, oh, bad influence. It's like, bro, like this is stuff he was suggesting. Like, you're just blaming me because like we were just doing kid stuff, and it was never anything bad, right? Like we weren't like doing anything we weren't supposed to be doing, which is, again, we were young teenage boys. The worst we were doing was maybe sneaking around, like smoking a little weed, if that. Most of the time we were just loud playing video games and eating snacks and cursing, which, oh my God, can you believe that we said curse words as young boys in like the early 2000s and like the early and mid 2000, like to the 2000 era? Like, it's absolutely nuts. I know. Crazy. Can't believe that two boys would do that. So there was that weird, I was never really over at his house a whole lot. And then like, like I said, his parents were, it was mostly his dad was like weirdly kind of wanted to be strict, but like wasn't. But he would like, he would let him come over sometimes, but like it was never, everyone had those friends that they could spam sleepovers with and that sort of thing. To the point where you're like, oh my God, it's been a week. Like, you need to go home or I'm gonna kill you. That sort of thing. Which we've all been there. Like I said, we've all, I think everyone can relate to that. But, and again, I'm getting to the main story, but I wanted to show that me and this person grew up together. We had been through a good bit, and there's still a little bit more, because it's important to this story, I feel like, because if I don't give the context, well then, it seems weird and one-sided, and maybe, you don't understand things, or where at least I'm coming from and why I see it as a betrayal of a best friend. So, we eventually went to a technical school together as well. And there was a bit of a weird thing there, because we went into a law enforcement class, and I ended up because your first year you didn't have any rank or seniority unless you were like God, which no one ever was. So no one in the first year, we were all like little cadet-a-roo rookies. Well, depending on how you did your first year and like how hard you worked and showed your determination would kind of determine your rank. And I wanted to be obviously captain because, again, I was selfish and egotistical. I didn't need to be, and looking back at it, and it's good that I wasn't. But anyway, there was that weird kind of power thing there, but it had to be because this is the class that we chose, and ultimately, at the time, we were going to choose law enforcement as our path. So like there was going to be a power structure. And honestly, yeah, I worked harder. It's just how it is. It's not me being a jerk, but I worked harder. I wanted it. I strove to be the best. That's what I wanted to do, at the time. And that's my work ethic. Well, he didn't get anywhere near the rank, unfortunately. I mean, he got a okay-ish one, but nothing crazy. So there was a weird, power thing there, but it was mostly just high school drama, and it wasn't like, again, it wasn't like this ruins our friendship. It's driving a wedge between everybody. it was just kind of one of those things that, again, it was early high school drama, people having power in situations they probably shouldn't. Like, looking back, like, nobody should have in high school had like seniority over any other student who, you know, that was just a trouble waiting to happen in actuality, you know, as a clairvoyant human being, I guess, looking back, hindsight's 2020, but I didn't have any say in those rules. But then, you know, we graduated, we grew into our adult lives. You know, life happened, existed, you know, it really wasn't anything too different. We didn't really, again, grow apart per se, but like, as time was going on, just life was changing, people getting jobs here or at different times, having different schedules. You, in a way, drift apart because life forces you to. But we were always good buddies. We always talked to each other and everything like that. And we had worked, so he ended up going into security as his job after our law enforcement class, because, you know, like, law enforcement security kind of a thing. We weren't 21 yet, you know, can't really be a police officer. That was what we wanted to be. We thought we were going to be cool police officers, and then we realized how horrible of an idea that was. Anyway, so he ended up working security for this company, and then I worked for, it was technically the same company, but it was like a different branch that was like kind of independent, if that makes sense. So we were like coworkers because of an umbrella, if that makes sense. And you know, for a few years I worked where I was, and you know, I was needing to advance my career, aka get more money, because shocker, in security you don't really advance your career, you just kind of try to get more money, and then you eventually cap out and realize, well, this is useless, I should probably do literally anything else with my life. So he was like, hey, we have a positioning opened over here, and we like need to fill it, you know, like, we're homies, I'll vouch for you. And I was like, cool. And it was like a good couple dollars more an hour. And like, I was like, hell yeah, dude, I need the money. I'm an up and coming YN, if you will. Yeah, that'd be great, thank you. You know, that's very awesome of you, you know, like, that's, you're a homie for that, you know. We grew up together, that's kind of what you would do. I would think that's what I would do. So I get the job and we start working together, and things are good, things are fine. You know, we're working together, things are, like I said, fine, good, dandy. Nothing's really bad. And then, you know, as time goes on, you know, he starts, you know, complaining more about the job. And of course, like, the real things about the job start like, you know, rearing their ugly head. And then you know, you start hearing people complain and people being unhappy about, you know, work positions or how things are being handled, which is fair. It's understandable. You know, but it was kind of one of those things of, well, you know, the economy's changing, things are getting more expensive, the job's not compensating for, you know, these things. So, you know, he's complaining about, you know, being there for so long, he wasn't able to, you know, advance or, you know, get promotions, this, that, and the other. And so I was like, well, why don't you look for a new job or like do anything else, dude? And we were still pretty young. We're like in our like late teens, early 20s, you know, I think he was just 21. I was 20, maybe at the latest. And, you know, it was kind of one of those things of, I had worked there for a total of like 3 years. And if you watch some of my other videos, you will have heard this story in some capacity, where at least where it leads. So we worked together, things were going good, and then, like I said, I kind of eventually also hit that point of, well, I've been here for a while, life's expensive and it's getting more expensive. I can't keep up with, you know, not money being given to me. I need money. So I was like, well, I'm going to go to school for IT. And like this is where this is going. If you remember the start of my channel, you would know that that's when I was in like pretty much at the start of my school career, which was very long and arduous. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Hold on. This is a story. This is a story. You know, things are fine. You've got things in front of you to keep you entertained. You've got things that are moving and happening and whatever. So I started school, and you know, I was like realizing, I was like, man, like I've found a way out of like this cycle that is just security that isn't going anywhere and isn't paying me anything. And I you know, started trying to encourage him. I was like, hey man, like this school was like super easy to get into. Things were, you know, it's nice. Things are cool. But he was like, yeah, I guess I'm going to do this, or, you know, he was going to, you know, quit the security program and end up being a cop for who we were working for. Again, I'm not going to say who or what we were working for, but it was one of those deals. So he was going to end up being one of the cops for that company, or that business, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, he never did. And he also joined the National Guard, but then he was like, well, then I'm just going to go Army full time. And then never did, because he always smoked weed and everything else, you know, on the weekends with his girlfriend or his wife, whatever. So that never happened. Well, then he was going to open his own restaurant, and I quote, because I make pretty good burgers at home. So I was like, all right, again, but I'm being a supportive friend. I'm just like, all right, yeah, sure. If you want to do that, like maybe like take some like cooking classes and start like brushing up on some culinary arts and practicing at home and getting some good equipment. Nothing. Wouldn't do anything. And it started turning into this, I'm going to complain all the time about everything and how much it sucks and how much I hate it, and I'm not going to do anything. But again, like, we're homies, and like part of this is coming from hindsight of how I'm speaking on it. But you know, at the time, I'm like, again, like, whatever you want to do, man, like I can help you out. Like I'll help you find resources, you know, or like I can be there for support. Like I can encourage you, you know, whatever it is. Like we can make life better. We're homies. We'll do it together. Like I'm very much a person of everybody who sits at my table deserves to eat good. And if you're sitting at my table, well, we're gonna make sure you eat good too. You know, so like I said, I had tried all these different things to support him. And also at the time, during when this was happening, I was getting moved into like my new apartment-ish. I was there for like a couple months at the time. And like while I was working there, I was at this old like rent house that I was staying at. That was this story could be like 10 different stories. And if you guys want, I'll go into the, you know, each individual story that you know is kind of being branched off of this for some context of why things are the way they are and what happened. So I was living in this really, really bad rent house that honestly needed to be condemned, but when you're broke and you don't really have anywhere else to live, and that's the option you have, well, it's that or be homeless. So I lived in that for a while, and it started getting so bad that, like, I kid you not, like there was a like a hole like ended up like just happening in the bathroom. So like, and it was right next to the shower, which meant like probably if you kept using the shower and standing in there, because there was a leak behind the wall that I didn't know about. Again, it was a rent house and it was cheap. It was like $500-$600 a month for like a 3-bedroom house that I could just stay at, you know, like it works for me. And it was horrible. So I like couldn't use my shower anymore. The washer and dryer went out. Like it was basically turning into a place to like keep the rain off of my head, and that was about it, which was, I guess, okay. Whatever. So that was my living situation, and as a result of that, I had to like shower at there was like a gym at work, and so I was using the gym, and like they also had a like a laundromat there too. So I was using the gym and the laundromat because I didn't have those things. Like I didn't have access to those things while I was, in hardship. So I had spoke to my boss and stuff, and like everyone was pretty cool with me, like just using those facilities, because like, why wouldn't you be? It's not like I'm asking for a handout. It was just like, hey, while I'm at work, could I please use the shower and the laundromat so I could stay like clean and hygienic, because I work with the public as a security guard, so I don't want to stink and be gross, which leads me into my next point of my buddy was becoming one of these people, of a slob, who he would just come to work with his shirt stained black with just not washing it. Like it was getting bad. And because I honestly think it was because he was getting very depressed in his situation, because nothing was happening and he couldn't change it, and he was becoming unhappy, and that depression was locking him into that cycle. And that was why I was trying to help him and do those things, even while I was struggling like that. I was almost home. I was homeless with a really fancy cardboard box, because again, there was also like animals in the ceiling. Like it was not good. Probably took years off my life living there. But while I was there as well, there was a gym, and I would use the gym, and like no one cared. I was I worked overnight security at this place, and he at a certain point, everyone is like asleep, even the crackheads, so no one's really gonna like do anything. There's nothing to respond to or do unless like a fire happens, which I'm not a firefighter, so like it was like important for me to go to and help out, but I wasn't doing anything that like was gonna save the day ultimately. And so like some time went on, and like then out of nowhere, it's like, okay, we get this like we get told just kind of like through the grapevine, like, hey, we can't use the gym, like that, we can't do that. But it's like, okay, and that's because like Brian was trying to be like, hey, let's go down there together and stuff, and my boss kind of like put the kibosh on that, to which I took that because I was not told like, hey, don't go down there anymore, like specifically or anything like that. It was in front of like other people. I took it more as a, hey, if you're gonna go, just keep it to yourself and just go take care of what you need to take care of, so that way it doesn't become a problem. And okay, I was like, okay, whatever. And so like Brian was like, okay, yeah, I can't go. And I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna go and stuff like that, like, because that's kind of where I do my business at like 3 a.m. on like, and it was once a week too, mind you. So, but like he was like started throwing like a bitch fit about it one night, and like I had been doing this for like a year, and no one had minded at all. Like no one had cared. But again, like Brian was slowly devolving into someone who was just unhappy with his situation. Therefore, he was unhappy with everything else. And again, this whole time, mind you, before I continue, I have been trying to get him to enroll in a new tech school for like, because he likes working with cars. He likes project cars. I was like, go to school for like mechanics or like body work or like paint or like anything. I was like, you're unhappy here. You're miserable. You talk about wanting to quit and walk out like all the time. I was like, dude, like, go be happy. Like, do what you want to do. Like that's what, like, I'm trying to support him the best I can. It's not, like I can't force him to do it, but I can like try to plant ideas. And again, I was in school at the time. I was like, man, I'm loving it. It's great. You can start next year, because it was already in the middle of the school year. I was like, you can start next year, and in a couple of years, it's like, me and you will be out of here. We can be eating good. We can live good. We'll have money. We'll have like better careers. Things will be better. It'll be nice. But wouldn't do anything. Well, so one night I like I said, he was kind of throwing a bitch fit, because I was like, I'm gonna go down there. He's like, oh no, we can't do that. And I was like, dude, it's not a big deal if no one like announces anything and like says anything, then like no one's really either gonna know or care. So like, why are you making a big deal out of it? Just do it. Like no one is gonna care. And he's like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Like I'm they said not to, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. Like, again, like they didn't specifically say that you could do it, or like you haven't been the one doing it, this whole time. Just, you know what? Fair. I get it. I was like, dude, like, because he was like really uptight. And I was like, man, like if you just relax and just do things and stop worrying about things all the time, like it'll be a lot nicer. And that's exactly what I said to him before I, went and walked down to like the gym shower area that I was using. And he like kind of just like looked at me like all like butthurt, and I was like, dude, like I don't get what your deal is. Like you're upset over nothing. Well, I think like whatever, like he's just being weird. He's not gonna come with. He's not gonna whatever. So I just go down there and come back. Things are fine. And seems chilled out. All good. No biggie. Well, then some like time passes. Again, things are fine. Nothing's weird. Kind of things are chill, back to normal. Like at the time, there was like some work tension, just because work drama is work drama, and it'll always be work drama. We'll leave it at that. And things are pretty much fine. And then it's like 2 days before Christmas, and all through the night, no one's making a sound. No one's even stirring. Not even a mouse, except for apparently these scheming fucks behind me. And this is where the story of betrayal fully begins. It started with when I was talking about him being a little upset and a little butthurt about me saying, like, if you just do things and just stop worrying about what other people think and want to say, you'll be fine. Which was kind of a piece of life advice of just like stop worrying all the time and like commit to something and do it. Like me kind of just giving a little pep talk, like a little smack on the ass, like, hey, come on, man. Like life's not going to get better if you just keep bitching about it. Like a good friend should, when someone is sitting there actively sabotaging themselves. Mind you, this is also now a man who doesn't eat vegetables because they're, I quote, gross and yucky, and I don't like vegetables. So again, I'm trying to be a good friend, trying to like set good examples, being like, hey, we should like be healthy, we should eat healthy, we should make smart decisions, again, advance our careers, do stuff, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, the 2 days before Christmas, 2023, I'll never forget this moment. I get to work because around the holidays, stuff's pretty chill. We don't need all of our guards. So it's like two of us. It was like me and my supervisor. So I like get to work. It's normal. I'm getting everything all ready, ready to go to our post area. It's going to be chill. Like I said, it's coming up on a holiday where it's almost Christmas. There's no one around. We're vibing. We're going to have a good, easy night. And I get everything ready. Literally, I got in a little early. I spent like 15 minutes getting everything prepped, getting everything ready. Everything's good. Everything's gravy. And then like, I'm getting ready to I'm waiting for my, supervisor to come out, and we're going to leave and we're going to go. And then he's like, hey, can you come in for a second? I'm like, yeah, sure. What's up? He's like, hey, come back here. And it's like, oh, okay. And we end up walking, back into the C-suite area. And I'm like, oh, what's the deal? Like, what's the problem here? And I see like the big boss sitting at a table, and I'm like, oh shit, no, this isn't good. And I'm like sitting there thinking of like, what the hell could I possibly have done to like warrant this kind of response to anything? And so they're like, take a seat. So I take a seat, and I'm like, how's everyone doing? Like, what the fuck's going on? You know, what's the hoopla all about? You know, like we're about to get started working. Like it's time for us to get going. Like, come on. And they're like, yeah, so this happened, and they bring up the instance of me going down to the gym that same night that I told Dude McGuy, hey, let's go, and he was throwing a bitch fit. And mind you, he was the only person that knew that I left at that point in time to walk down that area. And they were like, essentially, like the whole meeting turned into like a, hey, you know, you went to this place, you know, you're being like, you're insubordinate, and we're gonna fire you. And I was like, you're gonna fire me for that? Like, are you like dead ass, essentially? And they're like, yeah, like there's nothing. I was like, okay, first off, I have worked here for 8 years, or like 7 years. I have not had one complaint, not one write-up, not one issue. This is my first offense of anything, and you're immediately going to termination. Yeah, so this, that, whatever. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Great. So I just got fired 2 days before Christmas. And they tell me, they're like, yeah, on this date you were caught on this. I was like, okay, well, the only person who could have known is Brian. And I was like, okay, whatever. So I immediately like messaged him. I'm like, dude, they just, and I wanted to see, because I knew it was him, and I wanted to see what he was gonna say and to see if he even had like the balls. And again, this is someone who's supposed to be one of my best friends, who I've grown up with and I've known for over 10 years at this point, like 11, 12, like we're up there in numbers of knowing each other in terms of years. And I'm like, hey man, they just canned me. And I was like, they, for the whole gym thing, like they just fired me. He's like, oh man, that sucks. What happened? I was like, someone reported me. They didn't tell me who. And he's like, man, I have no idea who would have done that. And I was like, yeah, man, I don't have any idea either. I couldn't tell you who would do it. And then I even was like, yeah, they're a real piece of shit, whoever did that. You know, they kind of deserve the worst, because they just got me fired 2 days before Christmas, and now have taken food off my plate because now I, am unemployed. So I was unemployed for a month during the holidays. That sucked. And it was one of those things, he never apologized for it. He never admitted that he was the one that did it, even though I confirmed with everybody else that I worked with that it was him. And I confirmed that no one else did it because, again, no one else knew that I had left to do anything. And by left, I mean went to a different part of the campus location. And by campus, I mean like, our work area. Like, if that makes sense. If you don't know what a campus means, it means more than like a school, young people. So like, again, it wasn't really anything bad. I didn't like steal anything. I didn't break anything. I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't like sexually do weird things to coworkers. No, I went to the gym and used facilities because I was down on my luck and poor. And then my supposed best friend, Brian, or one of my best friends, turned around, reported me, and got me fired because I'm assuming I was doing well and things were going well. Like, I was on track to I was even told, like, if we open a supervisor, like a junior or like assistant supervisor position, like your name's definitely in the running. You do a good job. So like, that's the thing is and come to find out, his mom and dad used to be like, retired out of this company. So he had his mommy and daddy also throw him a little bitch fit, and so that way he could get his way, because he was unhappy that someone was actively trying to make their life better and enjoy life and not just wallow in misery like he was. And then come to find out, it's been a few years since that, about 2 years now. He's still working there, still miserable, still saying he's gonna quit, still doing nothing. Like everyone who I know that still works there that I talk to has advanced in some way or is about to advance, and he's still stuck there. And I kid you not, everyone has described him as the scab of that company that they just can't get rid of. And I think that's really pathetic and sad when you get to that point. Which, now that you know the story, I kind of want to, like, have you guys sit on that. Like, like I said, I definitely was not like the best of friends when we were younger, but this is now when we're full adults. And it's like, I don't understand how someone can claim to be your friend and then be that petty when not only that, but you're trying your best to like encourage them and support them in making good choices and advancing in life and doing well. And it's like, you're so jealous and bitter and upset with your own self that you have to actively ruin someone's like money. And again, I was full-time in school, hardly getting any sleep. I was working full-time overnights and then going to school all day. I was getting like 4 or 5 hours of sleep on a good day. And it's just one of those things, like, why would you want to do that to somebody? And then like when it happens, you don't even have the gall to say, I'm sorry. It's like one thing if it's like, okay, you admit to it and you're like, oh, hey, I just thought you would get written up or yelled at or something. I was upset and I got a hair across my ass. I'm sorry, that was shitty. And it's like, okay, yeah, that is shitty. Don't do that again. But no, dude, you got me fired from my job. Like, you literally put me in financial hardship because you're unhappy and you don't like when other people are doing better than you and succeeding. Like, that's all it is. And, like I said, I'm not going to dox the guy. I'm not going to, do anything to, ruin his life or anything like that. But he knows who I am, and I'm pretty sure if he ever hears this, he knows this story is about him. Ultimately, bro, like, I hate to be that guy, but you're pathetic. You ain't going anywhere. Like, you're sad, man. And like I said, you were a best friend to me at one point, and you were awesome, but whatever you have become is like more pathetic than like anything I can imagine. And I can't even think of a creative insult to throw at you. I think it's pathetic and sad. And I think if you are a person out there who is in their mid to late 20s and you are actively one of these people and you're trying to act and behave this way and do this to people around you, maybe not even people who are like your friends or close to you, but just people in your life that you maybe know, like if you're behaving that way, you genuinely are like a scumbag and you really deserve the worst. But yeah, no, like that's the story of kind of and backstory of, a friend's betrayal that I think maybe not specifically down to every detail people can relate with, but I think everyone in their life has had that person that they've considered a really close friend that they would want to help out and support and do things for, only for them to self-sabotage themselves and in the process sabotage you. And it almost kills some innocence that you have in a way. And it's sad. But these people, hit a certain point, and I believe everyone can change, but they have to want to change. And I also believe that, like, if someone is going to want to do it, they would have done it before they're almost 30. So, like I said, man, don't be a deadbeat. Don't be a bad friend. I think that's a really good moral to the story. If anything, don't be like that, and I think you'll probably succeed. But like I said, there were a couple other like side tangent stories that I had there that I can kind of go into full detail on. But like I said, it was sad. It's sad to see because I genuinely think that this guy has just become so defeated and so depressed by maybe personal failures or not living up to what he wanted that like he's just stuck in a rut. And I don't think that there's anything that anybody can do that's going to be able to like fix or save him. I really don't. It's going to be something that he's going to have to really want. And I don't know if he, like I said, I think he might be past the point of being able to do anything because I don't think he wants the help anymore. And I don't think he's willing to get the help anymore. I think it's become so normal that it's it's kind of ruined him. And I think it'll take an entire transformation of a human to like really make a difference here and change his ways. But I don't see it happening personally. And it's really sad because you realize that you cannot, no matter what you want to do, no matter how hard you try, if a person doesn't want to help themselves, you can't help them if they don't want to. And it's hard. I tried to be supportive and good to a person, and the only thing they could think to do is be spiteful, and again, cost me my job 2 days before Christmas. So, yeah, no, man. Like I said, if you ever somehow hear this, fuck you, bro. You're an asshole. Eat shit. Fall off your horse. But if you made it to the end of this story, congratulations. You just made it to the end of Peachy's first story time. I'm sure I'll refine these as time goes on. But I was just kind of sitting there thinking, I was like, man, I kind of want to, share a story about some qualms I have, and see what people kind of think. But like I said, if you enjoyed the story, let me know. If you want to see more or hear more stories about anything, or if you guys just want to ask questions about like life, or if you guys want to hear the stings or, my takes or opinions on something, just let me know. I'm happy to do it. I think that'd be kind of cool. I don't mind doing game stuff, but I think I'm finding that I don't enjoy doing Let's Plays. I think that's kind of shallow and boring. I would much rather talk about things and educate people and all that sort of stuff. Well, maybe we have a game in the background, but again, a reminder, this is a game called Phantasy Star Universe. This is specifically Phantasy Star Universe Clementine. It's a private server. If you're interested in it, YouTube and Google is a wonderful thing. I'm not explaining anything else, and that is going to be the end of my video. So if you enjoyed, make sure to hit a like, comment, subscribe, or don't. I don't really give a shit. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay peachy. Bye-bye.